Welcome back to Society Case Files. My name is Robert. Today I want to talk about some model stuff and using the markers and some basing. I had done this whole video, but my camera betrayed me and it was so blurry that it was going to be pointless. It just wasn't salvageable. So here we are, trying again. Unfortunately, many of the things I wanted to do on camera I've already done, so I'm going to describe them and I'm going to apply some of the techniques with a different model this time. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Otherwise, we're going to dive right in. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is this Paragon War Suit. I recently just painted this, and it's a combination of markers and traditional paint. There is no gold in the markers yet, so I had to use Retributor Gold to do my framing. This fleur-de-lis is done with this flat white marker, which I will never be without. I love this thing. It's absolutely amazing. You can get very detailed with it, and it's just super nice. In fact, in the other video, I had done this little part right there with it, and I just have to clean up the edge, which I'll be able to do with a black marker. But most of this was done with those. I used the aluminum color for her guns. I used the dark aluminum for the back here and some of the weapons, this sort of thing. This background. It was really neat and super quick, to be honest. I have a few things I want to come back in here and do. I want to bring out my fleur-de-lis and this little skull eventually, but, you know, that can wait. But all around, I thought this model came out great. And again, much of it was done with those markers, which are just super, super convenient. The next thing I would like to talk about is this witch elf. This is a character from the Knives of the Crone. This is a warband character. I did the vast majority of this with the markers, and then I went through and did things with the traditional paints. Now, the back I did with markers, but then I used Corvus Black to go back over it to give it the color it has. So to be honest, this is not the most fair representation of these markers, but you know, from point A to point B, this was done. Her pants are Incubi Darkness at this point, but they were put over this Magic Blue, which is an Army Painter speed paint marker. And I think it came out great. So one of the original reasons that I was doing this video is because I wanted to talk about this basing. So this basing is cool because I wanted to make the background look like mossy rock as opposed to just the, you know, the textured bases that they have for like this character here, where you could kind of see a bunch of stuff on the ground, but, you know, I'm not as big of a fan of this stuff. You know, I like proper bases. So I wanted to kind of elevate that in my mind. And so I made this rock all mossy and then did the rest with leaves and other turf while still allowing some of the texture to come through. I then did the round of the base with one of the markers. So I have obviously not gotten too far into her yet, but I thought that we could base this one the same way I based this one, and then I can just kind of show you how I did it. And I want to show you one of the cool little things that I picked up from Amazon to apply basing easier. These are orange sticks, which are generally used for nail stuff, like manicures. And it works fabulously for what we're about to do. So basically, what I do is I take a piece of paper towel, and I'm going to get these markers out of the way. And then I'm going to apply a little bit of the glue, just a dab of the glue, to the paper towel so that we have some to scoop. Don't need a lot because I'm not going crazy here. So we're going to take her stairs and make them a little mossy. That's the goal. So this has a flat end, as you can see, and then it has basically a real thick toothpick style side. So I'm going to use the flat end to scoop some of this up. And I don't want a lot, you know, basically about that much. And then I'm going to just sort of apply it over the stairs. And I don't need it to be too thick because I do want some of the stairs to stick through and still be stairs. This is how I'm going to make it mossy as opposed to just completely covered with turf. And if I get too much on an area, that's okay. I can spread it out and thin it out with the stick. So, I suppose I could spend a little bit more time thinking about how moss would technically grow on the stone, but really I just want it to look a specific way. So we're just going to dive in and make it happen here. A little bit on her cloak is not going to bother me too much, but I think I can avoid it for the most part. So we got the stairs kind of covered. I'll do just a little bit more on the ground here so that just some of it sticks, and then maybe up on this here as well. And that should be good enough. So let me move these models out of the way, and we're going to come back over. Here is my basing material I'm using. The goal is to use this basing stuff and not over here. This was used for the parts that I didn't want moss on, and I'm going for moss. So we're going to do it like this. I'm just going to dive right in and get it all nice and saturated with this stuff. Piling it up high enough is kind of a pain. Okay, so now that I have some on here, I'm going to need to tap it off. So I'm just going to turn her over and tap. Now, I didn't do this with quite a few models, and I really needed to because there was just a ton of crap that fell off. And you do need to be careful because I have ripped the hand off of a Blood Bowl model doing this. All right, and there we go. There is my mossy stair. It's not like overwhelming, but it is pretty cool. And I even got a leaf on there, which is pretty neat. So that was the effect that I wanted to get with the other model, and that's how I did it. So now I can go in and paint her and not worry about it. And then, of course, I'll have to round this, which I will do with one of my markers, the brown one, because I'm going to keep them uniform. We'll move our basing material out of the way again. And voila. Now, I suppose I could have made an argument to base this with gray, but that's okay. And I'll probably go back through and do more basing on this model when she's totally painted. This is pretty streaky. That is from the Army Painter version, and that's only one coat. So that's why that looks that way. So anyway, that's what I wanted to do. That's sort of what I achieved with her companion. Obviously, this one is fully based, whereas this one is only partially. So there are those two. Now, let us talk about some other random stuff. So this character here, I was going to use magic blue. And you can even see, if you zoom in, or if I bring it in close, that I've got some magic blue on that cloak right there. And it just was not working out the way I wanted. So I used McCrag blue instead to get a much smoother finish and to get that very rich blue, that ultramarine blue on my Stormcast Eternals. While I was on camera before, I did this with markers. And I'm going to do another cloak with a marker as well, just to show you. But I did this, and I did his bow as well. So let's grab this other character, and we'll do their back here as well. Now, I'm not doing the feathers. The feathers I am doing with a contrast paint. And it is the black, or is it? It's Black Templar. Yeah. It's Black Templar, and the way I know that is that I spilled like a good 1/3 of this when I was doing the other character, and that sucked. But anyway, that's what this will be. And then this part will be the marker. So we're going to do the marker really quick, just so that I can show you how it looks. And we're not using rubber black, we're going to use flat black. Now I can tell you from experience that this takes 2 coats. So we're going to start like this. You just smear it on. Now this is fast drying, so you can actually do the second coat. By the time I finish the second half of her cape, this half will probably be ready for a second coat. I find it is still a little streaky, but the way I fixed that on the other character is I just basically applied some of Corvus Black to it and made it nice and smooth. But I didn't have to use much, and a little thinned down stuff made it really nice, and it was just much quicker and more convenient. Which is really what these markers are, is a more convenient way to paint. Unfortunately, they don't have the colors necessary to be a complete solution for painting. Like, they don't have purple, and their red is atrocious, and there's lots and lots of things going on there. Which you can see in my other video when I talk about this stuff. It's unfortunate because they are a blast to work with too. They're just super fun. So I'm going to be a little careful here and not get that onto the weapon as much as possible. And the other trick about these is that they can get fat really quick. So it can be a little difficult to get in and do some finer detail work. Like in the back there, it's hard to reach the back of this cape. So I might end up having to do that with a brush. And that all depends on how much you care about getting into the back. Also, if you're using the Army Painter ones, you have to remember that they are speed paint, and you do have to prime their models with a light color. So I generally use Gray Seer for my priming when it comes to that. But like these markers work great on black. So if you're prone to doing black priming, like I did with that Paragon Warsuit, then these AK markers work fantastic. They totally stick to that, and they look great. So only doing a little bit more here, and then we will call this cloak good. But yeah. There is a cloak. In my other video that got ruined, I actually did this as well with this dark aluminum color, which is just really nice. In fact, I will... it's still a little wet, so I'm not going to do it on this one. Let's see what other model I've got that we can try the dark aluminum on really quick. Oh, here we go. Perfect. This character that we just did the basing on, I'll do the dark aluminum on her knife. My apologies for my phone or my watch just beeping constantly here. I don't know what is going on. It suddenly became popular. All right, so the knife is super simple too, very quick. And there we go. There's a knife, and you can see it's pretty dark. Kind of a little bit like a lead belcher, but not. Anyway, I love this. I love their metallics. They're really cool. I will warn you that most of the markers have a scent, and the metallics are no exception. In fact, much like the paints, the metallics kind of stink. But it's not overwhelming. It's not like the worst thing ever. So, that is that. So, gone over the basing, shown off the markers a little bit and how they function. I want to just come back to this model here and talk about the fact that I did this bow with the brown, which I think is pretty nice. It kind of does remind me of a dryad brown, the dryad bark. This model should be mostly getting there. You can see that even though it is still a little bit wet, it is a pretty nice spread. And that is just 2 coats on that cloak. So, very, very cool. I love this stuff. And I think it's really quite neat. But anyway, what do you guys think? Are these models... Anyway, what do you guys think? Do you like the markers? Do you like what they do? Did you like my basing method? Do you like the turf, the moss? Do you think it looks good? Do you think it looks like crap? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, this is Robert with Society Case Files, signing off.